Hello everybody, it's the A-side, me, Riley. Welcome back to another album review. I've got a good one for you today, and I'm going to try and push it a little harder than I did the My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy review, which didn't get many views. If you didn't see that, check it out. I talked for like 45 minutes straight about Twisted Fantasy. Anyway, before we get started, I wanted to shout out some friends of mine. I've made these friends over the years on Twitter, which my account was going to come up in this video. And they've been doing some stuff I've really enjoyed lately. First off is a radio show hosted by my friend Sefia Didwick. It's called Melting Space Dreams. If you like Weezer, you will love this show. She plays a lot of Weezer and a lot of bands very similar. I listened to it last night and really enjoyed it. It's every Monday night from 8 to 12 Pacific Central Time if you live on the East Coast like I do. It's 11 to 3. Sadly, I was not able to listen to all of it because 3 is a little late for me. But what I did get to listen to, I really enjoyed, and I highly recommend checking it out. You can find it at kxcj.org. I do have Twitter right in front of me so I can see it. And I will put a link down in the description below. Another one of my friends from Twitter has a music project called Modern Amusement, and I highly recommend checking that out as well. I've been really enjoying his song, I Want You Tonight. It's got this really neat like keyboard line, and it's just overall a very good song, and I highly recommend checking it out. Once again, I will leave descriptions to both I Want You Tonight and Melting Space Dreams in the description below. And now to get on to the key to my eternal virginity, my defense of Weezer's The Black Album. I have quite the history with this band, and a very long history with this album. I've been into Weezer since about 2016, 2017-ish, after they released the White Album, but before they had put out Pacific Daydream. Kind of in that mid-ground. I can't quite remember when I first got into them, through Pinkerton and the White Album. In the 90s, they put out the Blue Album and Pinkerton, two pretty much universally beloved albums. And the 2000s, early 2000s, put out some stuff that most people enjoy as well, like Green and Maladroit, and even Make Believe. But I think most fans agree that they were a little rocky in the later 2000s with the Red Album and Ratitude, and even though I love Hurley, well, a lot of people don't like it. But in the 2010s, I feel like they kind of went through a renaissance of sorts, putting out Everything Will Be Alright in the end, and then the White Album. And the White Album was an amazing album. It was very good, very reminiscent of their early 90s work. It's almost like the Blue Album and Pinkerton and the Beach Boys had this amalgamation together of this one album, and that was the White Album, and it was super fun, super laid back, super chill, and just one of the best summer albums I've ever heard. And after the release of the White Album, the man, the myth, the legend, my love, Rivers Cuomo, said that it was going to be followed up by a companion piece, the Black Album. And he said it was coming. He said it was going to be a total opposite vibe of the White Album. Instead of being a beachy album, it was going to be midnight in the city, and it was going to be very urban flavored. And he said it was going to have a Beach Boys Gone Bad vibe to it, and it was going to feature much darker subject matter and swearing, and it was going to be their darkest album since Pinkerton. And it never came out. It just didn't come out. He didn't give a release date. He just said it was happening. And then Feels Like Summer dropped, and people were like, is this the Black Album? Because it had the black music video. And people were like, is this the Black Album? I mean, sure, it's a little dark, but I mean, it's very poppy. It's not really Beach Boys Gone Bad. It's not really super dark sounding. It's not urban. You know, what is this? And then, sure enough, Pacific Daydream came out. Because Rivers Cuomo had made 2 folders, one for the Black Album, and then he had a beach folder, and that folder filled up quickly. A lot more quickly than the Black Album folder did. So he ended up putting out Pacific Daydream, and then speculation just started going wild about the Black Album. People were like, when is this coming out? What's it going to sound like? Including myself. And then Rivers was like, guys, it's coming out May 25th, 2018. And then May 25th, 2018 comes, and the Black Album does not come out. And I'm like, oh, come on. Because I had spent so much time looking through all the stuff about the Black Album, all the possible songs that were on it, everything Rivers had ever said about it. I was into this album so much, and this is kind of where my history with it starts. The rumors of a song called Cardigan Disaster was out. Rivers played it live by himself, and sure enough, the song was supposed to be on the Black Album. There's a complete version of it that leaked on the internet like last month, 2 months ago now. It didn't make it on the album, but sure enough, it was on the Black Album at one point, and it had all the vibes of the Black Album. And it kind of sounded like what they were promising with the whole kind of almost My Bloody Valentine inspiration, and the Midnight in the City, especially because the lyric Midnight in the City, the complete vibe that the Black Album was supposed to have. I feel like a lot of that was lost when we actually got the album itself. And very disappointed Cardigan Disaster was not on it. And then Rivers tweeted out a couple of days later, oh, Black Album, June 1st. And then it didn't come out on June 1st. And I was like, okay, fuck you, Rivers Cuomo. What are you doing to me? So I then made my Twitter page, Black Album Counter, where every day that went by past May 25th, I would tweet, 1 day without the Black Album, 2 days without the Black Album. And I did that until the Black Album eventually came out March 3rd. Of 2019, and that's kind of where my connection to this album came. I met a lot of really good friends. I still run that page to this day, the Black Album Counter. Find me on Twitter at Album Counter. I'm currently counting the days without Weezer, their newest album that didn't come out when it was supposed to. Shocker. So if you want to follow me there. And honestly, if it wasn't for this album, I would not be making this video. I wouldn't have made this YouTube channel because it started as a kind of as an extension of Twitter, because on my Twitter account I started giving in-depth thoughts on my music and stuff and started really discussing it and what I enjoy. And I started this YouTube channel so I had a more long-form way to talk about it, and if it wasn't for the Black Album, I probably would have never made that channel. And the hype was real for this album. When they released Can't Knock the Hustle as the lead single, which was a great lead single, I lost it. I was so excited. I spent that entire study hall in 10th grade just listening to it over and over again for like 40 minutes. I was so excited. And then Zombie Bastards dropped, and on a day I was out of school, it was a snow day, and I was up at like 8 o'clock, and Zombie Bastards dropped, and within the first 20 minutes I had pre-ordered this album. So I got a super exclusive copy of the Black Album on clear and black vinyl. Only 500 of these exist. And also a funny little thing is, if you look closely, they misspelled Rivers Cuomo. They misspelled his name on their own album. But, yeah. Needless to say, this was the most hyped I had ever been over an album, probably in my entire life. Probably the most hyped I will ever be over another album again. And a lot of people were really excited for the Black Album. And it really was not what was promised. A lot of the album doesn't have that Midnight in the City vibe. It doesn't have a lot of that urban flavor. Some hip-hop style production, but not much. And it completely lost the whole Beach Boys Gone Bad thing that Rivers had mentioned. And a lot of people were very disappointed in this album. But I still really enjoy it. I do really like this album, so I think the best thing to do is just start with the track by track. It opens up with Can't Knock the Hustle, which I think, like I said earlier, was an amazing lead single and a great opening song, and this has kind of that urban flair to it. And even though it wasn't what was promised, I feel like the Black Album is... I'm going to move this camera down so you guys can see my hands moving. I feel like the Black Album was probably the most experimental Weezer album to this day still. So many ideas and stuff on it were unlike anything Weezer had done before. Starting with Can't Knock the Hustle. It has this very Latin-flavored kind of sound with these trumpets and stuff in the background. And the hook in Spanish, Hasta luego, adios, is something Weezer hadn't done at all, ever. I don't think they've ever really... tapped into a different language ever, and hearing Rivers on the hook singing that is very interesting. And also, the bass line on Can't Knock the Hustle is killer. Scott Schreiner does an amazing job. He really does not get enough credit. Not only is he just a really sweet guy, amazing bassist, and you can especially hear it on Can't Knock the Hustle. The song itself is about the songwriting process, and I think that's really interesting. The way Rivers writes about it is pretty clever. I enjoy it. It's about how he writes songs, and you can't knock the hustle of him, doing it, even though you don't maybe really always like my music. I'm working for it, and I think there's some really funny wordplay, like the higher education is the key to escape, but I never learned to roll a joint. It's just fun wordplay, and I really enjoy that from Rivers. I do really like the song. Like I said, the bass line and the hook with the trumpets is really interesting. Something, like I said, Weezer hasn't done much before, and I feel like throughout the track listing of this album, there's a lot of experimentation on Weezer's part, and I feel like opening with Can't Knock the Hustle, even though the rest of the album doesn't necessarily sound like that, with, the Latin flair, the bass line, the kind of urban kick to it, I still really enjoy the song. I think it's a great opener, great lead single, and really worth your time. It's one of the best songs off the album, a top 3 for me on this album. Really good stuff. Honestly, I think most of side A of the Black Album is pretty excellent, because then the second track goes into Zombie Bastard, which is another really unique song for Weezer. It's very sugary sounding, very sugary pop sounding, but not quite in the way Pacific Daydream was. I don't think it's ever overproduced. And there's these really great low synths that play throughout the song. The electronics on Zombie Bastards sounds excellent, very, very good. And it's funny because it's paired with this, plucking of an acoustic guitar. It's not necessarily the best acoustic guitar playing, but it goes really well with the synthesizer. And it also does kind of a similar thing on Living in LA, but we'll get to that. And those two things together kind of work pretty well. And I think the hook on the song is great. It's so catchy. And the entire song is just so much fun to listen to. It's chill. And super vibey. It's almost like something you want to listen to in a rainstorm. And I'm not just saying that because of the line, walking between the raindrops, singing along to Queen. I think the lyrics, while being a little silly, are very, evoke a lot of imagery, like My Heart Pumps Kool-Aid, the aforementioned Walk Between the Raindrops. Just a really enjoyable song. I very much enjoy Zombie Bastards, and I kind of interpret it as Rivers talking to the people that listen to his music, and just artists in general, and people who consume music, how so many of them stay in this box and follow the same conventions of what music should be, and what certain artists should do, like, oh, Weezer should make rock, they should just keep making the Blue Album over and over again, and Rivers sees them as zombies, and he doesn't want them to hold back his experimentation and his artistry. So he's saying, die, die, you zombie bastards, and it's cheesy as hell, and he's singing it super sugary, but I think the message of the song is really interesting. I really like what he's going for, almost kind of the opposite of what he's saying, when everything will be alright in the end. And I think that, mixed with the way this song is, makes it kind of sarcastic, because the song is so sugary and sweet sounding. It makes the whole thing extremely sarcastic, and I really like it. And that makes the bridge of the song probably the best part of this album. Although I would not say Zombie Bastards is the best part of this album, I think the bridge is great. If I die, it means that I lived my life, and that's much better than hiding in a hole. What Rivers is saying on this is that, sure, maybe it's going to hurt his career if he experiments, but he made his mark, and he followed his heart, and he did something, and that's, better than hiding and just doing the same thing over and over and over again and fading into obscurity. If you're going to go out with a bang and make the music you want to make. And that's really the best part of this song, especially on top of the pianos on it. And then goes back into the hook with the acoustic guitar and the synths. And then the song ends with with just the synthesizers and the electronic bass playing. And I think it's really good. I really enjoy Zombie Bastards as well. So then it goes into track 3, which is High As A Kite. And this is the closest you're going to get to classic Weezer on the Black Album. And this is most people's favorite track on this album. A lot of us were really into it when it first dropped, alongside Living in LA. I think it might have been February of 2019, not too long before the Black Album dropped. It's the last singles we got, so I think it was post-Teal album. And all of the Weezer fandom just lost it because the song was so good. It's about isolation, almost like kind of a Tom York Radiohead thing, about isolating yourself in the world we live in, and isolating yourself and being alone when you're sad. that you become like high as a kite by yourself in the middle of the air, just flying with no one around you, nothing to keep you down. An interesting concept, very sad, it harkens back to the emo days of an album like Pinkerton. And I think that's really great. I really wish Weezer would tap into this more emo, emotional side, because they're really good at it, especially like sadder tracks on the early stuff like Blue, and of course Pinkerton, and even on White, the sadder track, Jacked Up, is probably my favorite song on the album. So I really wish they would tap into this more sad, emotional side of them, because Rivers is really good at writing sad, and everybody knows that. And the song overall, like I said, it's very reminiscent of classic Weezer, but instead of being led by guitar, it's very piano-heavy. Not to say there isn't guitar. There is, and it's really great, too. At the end of the song, when it ends, the last chord is Brian and Rivers, their guitars together, playing these two different chords, harmonizing. And it's a super pretty end to the song. I think it really caps it off great. And the entire song, I love the vibe of it, how you feel like you're just floating through air by yourself, the way Rivers is singing so softly while he plays the piano, and then it explodes into this loud hook. Super triumphant. I'm high as a kite. That was probably off key, I'm sorry. And it's a chorus you can just belt out to, and then it kind of goes back to the I feel no pain, I feel no pleasure, I only want to disappear. And I like that dynamic, the kind of quiet, loud, that once again harkens back to a song like Say It Ain't So, which is also extremely emotional, and personal toward Rivers. And I think High as a Kite is kind of like that, where it is very personal and very emotional. Like I said, it's a song about when you're sad, you just isolate yourself and just wallow in your own loneliness. And Rivers is known for being, Weezer is known for being kind of the virgin band, and yeah, I feel like that kind of fits the theme. Really great song, probably my second favorite off the album. I really like High as a Kite. And then it goes into Living in LA, which a lot of people really don't like this song. I think it bops. I love the kind of the high-pitched synths that almost sound like sirens at the beginning of the song that play through it. And the acoustic guitar lead kind of ties it in with Zombie Bastards for me, because this album is not coherent whatsoever. I mean, more songs fit with each other than don't, and I feel like you can reasonably say that this album's cohesive enough that it doesn't hurt it, but sound-wise, it's not cohesive at all, except for Zombie Bastards and Living in LA, with the synths and the acoustic guitar kind of driving it forward. This song's a lot faster, though. I just really enjoy this song. The I'm Back in Black is really cool. I almost wish this was the opening track, just so the opening words of the Black album would be, I'm back in black, no one to hold my hand, it seems that we're together but alone. I feel like that would be a great opening line to the Black album. But regardless, I still really enjoy the song. I think the hook is great, and the little guitar thing under the do-no-no-no-no-no, under the this girl, I like. I really like that, and I like the, I wonder what it's like out there when my eyes are like faraway spaceships, especially the second time around, where it's kind of like reverbed and echoey a little bit, so it kind of gives you like the feeling of like, oh, space and spaceships, and you're looking out at space. Just a very interesting concept. I don't have too much to talk about the song. It's a pretty basic love song, just kind of looking for someone to love when you're living in LA. Feel so lonely. It's just a pretty basic song, but I still really enjoy it. I know a lot of people don't. They find the hook obnoxious. I rather enjoy the hook of the song, but to each their own. And then Piece of Cake, which is another song I really like. It's super chill, and kind of, it's led by piano once again, and synths, but I think that's good. I really like the feel of it. And at this point, we've lost the whole Midnight in the City thing. I think you could hear that on Can't Knock the Hustle and Living in LA. You got the kind of Midnight in the City vibe, but that's pretty much lost from here on out. Piece of Cake does not have that vibe whatsoever, so it's not what Weezer promised, but I still really enjoy it. Although the song does bring darker subject matter. It's about like a bad relationship and how this girl just messes Rivers up, opening with the line, let's do hard drugs and fix our problems. Doing hard drugs, believe it or not a very good way to fix your problems. Um, and it keeps going with the "she cut me like a piece of cake," just talking about how bad this relationship is for Rivers and how much it's hurting him. He's doing drugs to try and fix his problems because this relationship is so terrible and hurting him so much. And that's kind of the theme of the song. But the song itself is super chill. The do-do-do-do-do-doos over the piano and guitar just are really chill and laid back, and the entire song's pretty laid back. I think Rivers gives a pretty good vocal performance, a lot of falsetto in it, which up to this point, we hadn't heard much falsetto from Rivers. Very, very rare. I think at that point you had Jacked Up, Feels Like Summer, and Unbreak My Heart were like the three main falsetto Rivers songs, and The Greatest Man That Ever Lived. But the Black Album, you hear it quite a bit. I mean, Piece of Cake has it. Too Many Thoughts in My Head has it. Byzantine, not Rivers, but there is falsetto. You do hear it quite a bit, and I enjoy it. I think he's very good at it. I'm sorry for the glare. I tried to put something up, but apparently it's not working now. Hey, there we go, but I can't look at the track listing. I do really enjoy Piece of Cake, though. It's just overall a pretty good song. I like the vibe of it. I like the pianos. Just a good song. Nice guitars that kind of drive the song. It's pretty catchy, too. But this is kind of where the album starts to fall off a little bit for me, because then side B is quite a bit weaker than side A, I'm going to be honest. A lot of people have drawn comparisons to Make Believe and called it Make Believe Part 2, and I feel like some of these songs, a certain 3-song run, is kind of what Make Believe sounds to people who don't like Make Believe. It starts off with I'm Just Being Honest, which I don't think is a bad song, but it's rather boring. I guess the synths kind of start out pretty nice, but Rivers just sounds very uninterested in the song. I think the concept is pretty funny, how Rivers keeps getting in trouble, because he's just saying stuff he probably shouldn't, but he's being honest with people. Like, his wife is like, oh, I just cut my hair, and then Rivers is like, yeah, I don't like it, and his wife is like, you what? And that's pretty funny, but the problem is Rivers just does not sell it whatsoever on this song. It's a rather boring song, but I don't think it's bad. I think the melody is pretty cool. The Then I Told You. I like that little part, but once again, I just do not think any of the band is very interested in the song. It feels kind of thrown together, and just they don't feel very enthusiastic about it whatsoever. But I still don't think it's a bad song. It's very much album cutty. It is not something I would ever seek out to listen to on its own. I would listen to it if I'm listening to the Black Album, but there's never been a time in my life where I just thought, I'm going to go queue up I'm Just Being Honest. That's never happened, and it probably never will. Then Too Many Thoughts in My Head, once again, as a very boring song. I just cannot get into it. I tune out every time I listen to it. I do like the little breakdown and bridge after the bridge and the breakdown afterward. Rivers is like, I never thought I would end up like this. I'm sick and tired of this Lawrence Welk shit. And then there's like a complete beat switch up, and it gets kind of spacey for a minute, and there's these things going off, and then Rivers like hits the falsetto and just like, woo, 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 yeah. And I'm like, whoa, that comes out of nowhere, and it's a really nice part, but the rest of the song, super boring, and I just could not care less about it. And then The Prince Who Wanted Everything is just straight up bad. Like I said, the dark edge of this album, lost completely. This is not dark anymore. Besides swearing on, like, the first 2 songs, that's gone completely. There's no edge, there's nothing interesting, and it's just cheesy. It's a song about Prince. They mentioned red berets, or red Corvettes, and tried to save the world with funk rock riffs. But it just sounds so cheesy, and especially the doody-doos on it that play through that Rivers sings through the entire song just make it sound like a song made for 3-year-olds, and I really hate The Prince Who Wanted Everything. It's the only song on this album I think is genuinely bad. I skip it just about every time, unless I'm listening to it on vinyl, because you can't really skip vinyl tracks. Just overall, not a good song at all. But it does have the only, like, parallel between the White and the Black album, and that is The Prince Who Wanted Everything being track 8 is co-written by Brian Bell, Whereas LA Girls on the White Album is also track 8. It was also co-written by Brian Bell, the guitarist. But LA Girls, as I mentioned on Twitter last night, is an absolute amazing song. It's like one of the songs that and El Scorcho like got me to fall in love with Weezer. And continues to be at least a top 15 Weezer song for me today. But The Prince Who Wanted Everything is one of the worst songs Weezer's ever made. Probably the worst song they've made that's not on Ratitude. I'm going to be honest. I really do not like this song. I'm just being honest. Get it? That's the song. But then the album picks back up a bit. I think that 3-album run is kind of where the make-believe comparisons come, and I really cannot blame anyone for thinking this run of the album is boring. And I can't blame anyone for thinking this ruins the album for them. It doesn't personally ruin it for me, but I can definitely see where they're coming from. But then it goes into Byzantine, which I think would have fit better on Pacific Daydream, personally. It has this weird island pop sound to it, and it does not fit the vibe of this album whatsoever. I mean, this album is already very, very incohesive, but Byzantine is just completely out there. But I really like it. It's a very unique and interesting song for Weezer. Like, when I say Weezer's at their most experimental on this album, I'm thinking of a track like Byzantine. Like I said, it's this weird, like, flair of island pop kind of mixed with Weezer's usual sound. There's some synths, but it feels, like I said, very warm, very islandy. And you've got Scott Schreiner doing these little backup vocals, the ooh, 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 and it makes the song just a lot of fun to listen to, and I think the guitar is great. Rivers gives a great performance, too, whereas he sounded super boring on the last 3 songs. He just seems like he's invigorated with this one, probably because it is so interesting, and it was co-written by Laura Jane Grace, who I'm sure you've heard of. I believe she's from the band Against Me, and she co-wrote this song with Rivers, and I think it turned out really good. It's just a song about Rivers being, like, attracted to this girl. It's nothing crazy. I think the lyrics are a little dumb. Put on your red beret, babe, and moonwalk naked across the room. Yeah, that's pretty dumb, but the song sounds so good, and it's just so much fun to listen to that I can excuse it. I do really like Byzantine. A lot of people don't like it, but I am a fan. And then it ends with what's probably, at this point, one of my favorite Weezer songs. Probably my second favorite closer, behind Only in Dreams, is California Snow. Now, this song, I hated it. It dropped as a song that was connected to the soundtrack of the movie Spell. I hated it so much the first time I've heard it, but now it's grown on me to the point where it's probably tied with, like, Island in the Sun for my favorite post-Pinkerton Weezer song. This is what the Black Album should have sounded like, and listening to this song is what made me think, you know what, I should make a Black Album review. The song is amazing. It starts off with these loud, blaring synths, but it's not. It's very electronic, but it's not the poppy kind of electronic. It's not like a song like Feels Like Summer, which was Weezer trying to do modern trends. This is a more take on a darker, moodier electronica sound, and I think it fits Weezer really well. It sounds like an electronica version of Pinkerton. The song is about cocaine and hard drug use, like messing with your life. California Snow being a euphemism for cocaine. And I just think the song sounds amazing. Rivers gives a great performance where it kind of like half talk, sing raps. The walk soft with the big stick. Woo! I play guitar, it's sick. And he kind of sounds like an asshole at first, but the more you think about it, the more you enjoy it, because it kind of fits with the vibe of the song. And I really like the structure of the song, too. It's very odd, where it starts with a chorus, and then goes into a verse, and then a different kind of verse, and then a chorus, and then the verse from the first time, and then bridge chorus. Very, very weird structure, but I really dig it. The chorus of California Snow and the hook is very catchy, especially with the low synth noise that plays. And Rivers, that falsetto again. California Snow, never let me go, is great. And it's something I can listen to all day. A really great hook. And I really like the kind of second verse, the back in 30 minutes, high as I can get it, give me everything you got. And I really like the line, I can move a mountain, solve a thorny problem, lover's gonna go so hot, never worry about tomorrow, cause I'm worried about today. If you see a tear fall, don't worry about me, y'all, this is what I'm like on top. Is a really good way to kind of describe how sometimes being a celebrity isn't as glamorous as it can sound, because you get hooked on drugs and get super depressed, don't know how to cope with fame when you're, constantly needing this high and constantly needing this drug. It's really dark, and I think this is what Weezer promised with the Black Album, is something dark, something experimental, a lot of electronics and synths to it. And not like sellout electronic synths, like I said, something like Feels Like Summer. Now, I like Pacific Daydream, but this is absolutely what the Black Album should have sounded like. California Snow is an amazing song. I really like the second verse of the first kind of structure. The Come On Judas, Give Me a Kiss. Cool Bible reference. And then it's got Brian and Scott, I believe, doing this really heavily modulated and edited little, their voices, they do, ooh, and I think that's a really cool sound. I think it really fits with that vibe, and I really like when Rivers goes, can't take much more of this, and then instead of his woos, like the woo that you hear on the first chorus, after he says, I can't take much more of this, they get really, tired and sound worn out. Woo! And they get, even worse as it keeps going on until it hits the chorus. And I think that's just a really intelligent thing to do, and I'm sure I'm probably the only person who's paid enough attention to California Snow to pick that out. But I love it. I think California Snow is an amazing song, and probably brings this album a little higher in my mind than it should, just because it is an amazing closer. I could talk about how good it is. I even like the bridge. The bridge is pretty weak. Never Go Against the Family, but I still enjoy it, especially when it goes into that second version of the first verse, the Come On Judas, Give Me a Kiss. Very well written song, very interesting sound. Like I said, I love the dark blaring synths that play throughout it, and the pianos that are in it too. A lot of the Black Album is led by piano. Rivers said he played a lot of it, and that wrote most of the songs on piano, and that was going to bleed into a future album that he called OK Human, that we're probably not going to see for another 5 years, because Rivers likes to give the release dates and not release them on those dates. I mean, Black Album and Van Weezer, so we'll see where that is. I'll review it if it ever comes out. But overall, I think the Black Album is very solid, although I think it could have been better, because there are so many songs that were written for this time period that could have been more beneficial. For example, if we take out Too Many Thoughts in My Head and The Prince Who Wanted Everything, and say replace it with Cardigan Disaster, which most definitely should have been on here. If Cardigan Disaster was on this album, I already talked about that song, it would be probably second on this album behind California Snow for my favorite. If it was on this album, it would be amazing. And then replace Too Many Thoughts in My Head with Feels Like Summer, which is a pretty dark song. If you listen to it, it's pretty sad, relationship-based stuff. Like Which Way to the Graveyard, or The Nice Girl with a Cold Heart, or I'm Still in My Bathrobe, Hiding in the Shadows. Pretty dark stuff. And because Pacific Daydream was written at the same time, I feel like that would have fit much better on here than it really does in Pacific Daydream. And I would have much rather had it than Too Many Thoughts in My Head. And like The Ballad of the Fallen Soldier was something that people was like this really synthy interlude that Weezer would play at their shows once in a while. You can find it on YouTube. I think that might have been nice on here. Also very good. It's something that I heard about when I discovered Cardigan Disaster, and listening and looking at all this Black Album speculation before we had even gotten Can't Knock the Hustle. I feel like some could have been better, but I still really enjoy it. I would like to see a deluxe version of it that has Cardigan Disaster and Ballad of the Fallen Soldier and some other songs that we didn't get to see. I know we probably won't, but it would be very nice. Or maybe at least have the next fan club single be Cardigan Disaster, one of these cut songs. So yeah, those are my extended thoughts on Weezer's The Black Album. Yeah, I do really like this album. I'm thinking a 7 plus on the Black Album. Maybe a little higher, maybe an 8 minus, but right now I'm feeling a 7 plus just because the first half of side B is pretty bad. Um, but it ends very good, and I think the first half is pretty phenomenal. So, yeah, thank you for watching. My Twisted Fantasy review didn't get a lot of views, and that's because I didn't push it very hard. I'm gonna try and kind of push this one a little harder. Put it up on Snap. I didn't put the Twisted Fantasy review on Snap because no one really cares. But, yeah, tell your friends, I guess. I don't know. And check out my friends below, Melting Space Dreams and Modern Amusement. Both very excellent in their own, very excellent radio show and very excellent music project. Very highly recommend both of them. And I reviewed the Black Album because I try and review albums that I can talk about. This is an album that warrants a lot of discussion because some fans like it, some fans don't. And it's different. It's very experimental for Weezer, and I can talk about it and give thoughts. Whereas, an album I absolutely love sometimes isn't the easiest to talk about, or an album that's really boring isn't the easiest to talk about because I just don't have much to say. Something like Pet Sounds. Not Pet Sounds. That's not a good example. I'm trying to think of a good example. Something like Blink-182's Enema of the State, an album I absolutely adore with all my heart, one of my all-time favorites, but I can't really talk about it that much because the songs are kind of similar, and I would just be saying the entire time, wow, I love this song, wow, I love this song, Mark sure sings great, Tom sure sings great, oh, this song is funny, but really not too much to discuss on it. Everyone knows that album's good, everyone, for the most part, really likes that album. It doesn't bring about a lot of discussion. That's why one of my first album reviews was Yeezus. I could have gone with any Kanye album. I could have gone with any album I listened to, but I picked Yeezus because I had a lot of thoughts on it, thoughts that weren't necessarily controversial, or that were controversial, and it just gives me a lot of discussion to talk about, whereas the Black Album gives me a lot to talk about in the Weezer camp because it's so varied, and because there's a whole spectrum of opinions on it, and I have such a history with it. So yeah, I've been the A-Side, and I will talk to you all next time.